The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Part 1. His name was Santiago. He arrived at sunset, herding his flock of sheep toward an old abandoned church whose roof had collapsed long ago, and where a huge sycamore tree had grown in the place of the altar. He decided to spend the night there. He brought all the sheep in through the broken door and placed a few wooden planks to keep them from escaping during the night. There were no wolves in the area, but once a sheep had run away, and he had been forced to spend the entire next day searching for that lost animal. He spread his cloak on the ground, lay down on it, and used the book he had just finished reading as a pillow. Before falling asleep, he thought that he should start reading longer books. They would take more time to finish, and they would make more comfortable pillows at night. It was still dark when he woke up. He looked up and saw, through the half-collapsed roof, shining stars. He thought to himself, "I wish I could have slept a little longer." He had dreamed the same dream again, the one he had seen the week before, and once again he woke up before it ended. He got up, drank a mouthful of wine, then tapped his staff to wake the sheep that were still asleep. He had noticed that most of the sheep woke up as soon as he did, as if some hidden force tied his life to theirs. For 2 years they had wandered together through the region in search of water and pasture. He said quietly to himself, "They've gotten so used to me that they know my schedule." Then, after a moment of thought, he wondered whether the opposite might be true, that perhaps he was the one who had adapted to the sheep's schedule. Still, there were always a few that woke up slowly. He nudged them one by one with his stick, calling each by its name. He never doubted that sheep could understand what he said. Sometimes he would even read to them passages from books that fascinated him, or tell them about the loneliness and joys of a shepherd's life in the countryside, or comment on the strange things he saw in the cities he passed through. But for the past 2 days, he had only one subject to talk about: the girl from the town he would reach in at most 4 days. She was the daughter of a merchant. He had only been to that town once, the year before. The merchant owned a textile shop and liked to see the sheep's wool cut before his eyes to avoid being cheated. A friend had directed Santiago to the store, so he brought the flock there. "I want to sell some wool," he told the merchant. The shop was crowded, and the merchant asked him to wait until evening. So the shepherd went outside, sat on the curb in front of the shop, and took a book from his bag. A female voice beside him said, "I didn't know shepherds could read." It was a girl with the features of Andalusia, long hair and eyes that resembled faintly those of the ancient Moorish conquerors. The young shepherd replied, "My sheep have taught me more than any book." They talked for more than 2 hours. She told him she was the merchant's daughter and spoke of village life where every day resembles the last. He told her about the Andalusian countryside and the curious things he saw in the cities he passed through. He was happy because he didn't have to talk only to his sheep. She asked, "How did you learn to read?" "Like everyone else, in school." "But if you can read, why are you just a shepherd?" He avoided the question. He was sure she wouldn't understand. He continued telling her stories about his travels, and her small Moorish eyes widened in wonder or closed slightly under the spell of amazement. As time passed, the young man silently prayed that the day would never end, that the girl's father would remain busy for hours, and he might even be told to wait for 3 whole days. He realized he was feeling something he had never felt before, the desire to stay in one place forever, as long as it was with the girl with the black hair. But the merchant finally arrived. He asked Santiago to shear 4 sheep, paid him, and invited him to return the next year. Now, only 4 days remained before he reached that same town again. He was excited, but doubt also crept in. Perhaps the girl had forgotten him. Many shepherds came there to sell wool. He said to his sheep, "It doesn't matter. I know other girls in other towns." But deep inside, he knew he could not pretend not to care. Shepherds, like sailors or traveling merchants, always have one city where someone lives who can make them forget the joy of wandering. When the first signs of dawn appeared, he began leading the sheep toward the rising sun. He thought, "They never need to make decisions. Maybe that's why they stay with me." The only thing sheep feel is hunger and thirst, and since their shepherd knows the best pastures in Andalusia, they remain loyal to him, even if their days are all the same from sunrise to sunset, even if they never read a book or understand the stories of the people who recount what happened in the Quran. Water and food were enough for them. In exchange, they gave him their wool, their time, and occasionally their meat. He thought, if I suddenly turned into a wild beast and began killing them one by one, they wouldn't understand until the whole flock was almost gone because they trust me. They've stopped relying on their own instincts simply because I lead them to pasture. He was surprised by his own thoughts. Maybe that old church with the sycamore growing inside was haunted. Could that be why he had had the same dream again? Was that why he suddenly felt anger toward the sheep he had always considered his friends? He drank some of the leftover wine from last night's dinner and wrapped the coat tighter around his body. He knew that in a few hours, when the sun grew hot, he wouldn't be able to walk the sheep across the open land. In summer, all of Spain sleeps during the blazing heat until nightfall. That's why he always carried his coat, even though it felt like a burden. Whenever he felt like complaining about carrying it, he remembered that thanks to this burden, he didn't feel the cold at dawn. We must always be prepared for changes in the weather, he thought, and thankful for what protects us. My coat has its purpose, just like I do. After 2 years wandering the plains of Andalusia, he knew every town by heart. That was what gave his life meaning: travel. He intended to explain to the girl why a simple shepherd could read. He had spent 16 years in a seminary. His parents wanted him to become a priest, something a humble rural family would be proud of. He studied Latin, Spanish, and theology. But from childhood, he had dreamed of knowing the world, something he considered far more important than knowing God or the sins of men. One evening, when visiting his family, he gathered the courage and told his father he didn't want to be a priest. He wanted to travel. "My son," his father said, "men from all over the world have come through our village searching for new things, but they always remain who they are. They climbed the hill to the castle and discovered that the past was better than the present. Some are blonde, some are dark, but to us, they all look the same." "But I haven't seen the castles in the lands they come from," the boy replied. His father continued, "When these men see our fields and our women, they say they wish they could stay here forever." "I want to see their women and their lands," the boy said, "because they never stay among us, and they come with pockets full of money, whereas only shepherds like us can afford to travel." "Then become a shepherd," his father said simply. The next day he gave his son a small chest with 3 old Spanish gold coins. "I found these once in a field," he said. "I thought they belonged to the church when you became a priest. Buy your flock with them. Travel until the day you understand that our castle is the finest of all castles, and our women are the most beautiful." He blessed his son, and in the father's eyes the boy saw the same desire, the desire to travel, a desire that had lived within him for decades, but which he had suppressed in order to stay, work, eat, and sleep in the same place. The horizon turned red and the sun rose. Santiago remembered the conversation with his father and felt happy. He had seen many castles and many women since then, but none like the girl he would see in 2 days. He now owned a coat, a book he could exchange for another, and a flock of sheep. But the most important thing was that every day he was living his great dream, to travel. He thought that when he tired of the Andalusian countryside, he could sell his sheep and become a sailor. And when he tired of the sea, he would have known many cities, many women, and many moments of joy. As he watched the rising sun, he wondered how someone could go to seminary to look for God, while he himself was always searching for new faces wherever he went. He had never entered this church before, even though he had passed by many times. "The world is vast," he thought. "If I let my sheep guide me, I might discover more wonderful things in no time." But sheep do not notice that they walk different paths, or that the pastures change, or that the seasons pass. They care only about food and water. Then he thought, maybe all creatures are like that, even me. No woman has occupied my thoughts since I met the merchant's daughter. He looked at the sky and estimated that he would be in Tarifa before lunch. There he could trade his book for a larger one, fill his wine bottle, shave, and cut his hair. He needed to look his best when he saw the girl. He didn't even want to imagine the possibility that some other shepherd with more sheep might have arrived earlier to ask for her hand. The joy of life, he thought, as he raised his eyes to the sky again, is nothing more than the possibility of making a dream come true. At that moment, he remembered an old woman in Tarifa who interpreted dreams. He had dreamed the same dream again the night before. The old woman led him into a small room separated from the main room by a curtain of multicolored plastic strips. Inside were a table, a picture of the Sacred Heart, and a chair. She sat and asked him to sit in front of her. She took his hands and began to whisper a small prayer. Her prayer resembled that of the gypsies he had met on his travels. They too were wanderers, but they didn't herd sheep. Rumors said that gypsies spent their lives tricking people, that they had pacts with the devil, and that they kidnapped children to enslave them in their mysterious camps. As a child, Santiago had always been afraid of being kidnapped by gypsies. That childhood fear returned as the old woman held his hands. He tried to reassure himself, "There's a picture of the Sacred Heart here, I'll be fine." He didn't want his hands to shake, so he silently recited, "Our Father."
"Amazing," the woman said, without letting go of his hands. Then she fell silent again. His nerves tightened, and his hands began trembling despite his efforts. She noticed and quickly released them. "I didn't come for a palm reading," he said, regretting entering her house. He thought he should just pay her and leave without hearing anything. He had probably given too much importance to a simple dream. But the old woman said, "You came to ask me about your dreams. Dreams are the language of God. When he speaks in the language of the world, I can interpret it. But when he speaks in the language of your soul, only you can understand it. And in any case, you'll still have to pay my fee." Another trick, he thought. But he decided to take the risk. A shepherd always faces risks, wolves, drought. That is what makes the profession exciting. He said, I dreamed the same dream twice. I was with my sheep in a field when a child appeared and started playing with the flock. I don't like strangers playing with my sheep. They get scared of people they don't know. But children always approach them, and the sheep never fear them. I don't know how animals recognize the age of a person. "Go on with your dream," she said. "I have a pot boiling on the fire, and you don't have much money, so don't waste my time." The boy felt embarrassed and continued. The child played with the sheep for a while. Then, suddenly, he took my hand and led me all the way to the pyramids of Egypt. He paused to see if the woman recognized the pyramids, but she remained silent. Then, in front of the pyramids, he pronounced the last words clearly so she would understand. The child said, "If you come here, you will find a hidden treasure." And just as he was about to show me the exact spot, I woke up. Both times. The woman said nothing for a moment. Then she held his hands again and examined them carefully. "I won't make you pay anything now, but I want 1/10 of the treasure if you find it." The boy laughed happily, so he could keep his little money thanks to a dream about hidden treasure. This old woman must indeed be a gypsy. Gypsies are fools.
He asked, "So how do you interpret the dream?" "First, you must swear to give me 1/10 of your treasure." He swore, and she made him repeat the oath while looking at the picture of the Sacred Heart. "This dream is in the language of the world," she said. "I can interpret it, but its interpretation is very difficult. That's why I deserve my share. Here it is. You must go to the pyramids of Egypt." "I've never heard of them before, but if a child pointed you there, they must exist. And there you will find a treasure that will make you rich." At first, he was surprised, then angry. He hadn't needed to visit her for this, but at least he didn't have to pay. "If that's all, then I didn't need to waste my time," he said. "You see," the old woman answered, "I told you your dream was difficult to interpret. The simplest things are the most extraordinary, and only the wise can understand them. Since I am not one of the wise, I must know other arts like reading palms, for example. And what must I do to get to Egypt? I only interpret dreams. I cannot turn them into reality. That is why I live on what my daughters give me. And if you never reach Egypt, then I get nothing. It wouldn't be the first time." She said nothing more and asked him to leave. He had occupied too much of her time. The shepherd left feeling disappointed, swearing never again to believe in dreams. He remembered he still had things to do. He went to get some food, exchanged his book for a larger one, and sat on a wooden bench in the square to enjoy the new wine he had bought. It was a hot day, but the wine somehow eased the heat, as many unexplained wonders in life do. His sheep were in a friend's stable near the town gate. He had met many people in his travels. That is why he loved traveling. One could make new friends without having to stay with them for the rest of one's life. But when one sees the same faces every day, as in the seminary, they become part of our life. And when they become part of our life, they start wishing we would change. And if we don't become what they want, they become disappointed with us, because everyone always seems to know exactly how others should live, but no one ever knows how they should live their own life. They are like the old woman who interprets dreams, but doesn't know how to make them come true.
He decided to wait until the sun leaned a little before returning to the countryside with his sheep, and after 3 days he would see the merchant's daughter again. He began reading the book he had obtained from the market of Tarifa. It was a thick volume, and from the very first page he found a burial scene, and the names of the characters were very complicated. He decided that if he ever wrote a book, he would introduce the characters one by one so that readers wouldn't have to memorize all their names at once. When he began to concentrate a little on his reading, because it was truly entertaining since the burial scene took place during snowfall, giving him a refreshing feeling under the blazing sun, an old man came and sat beside him and began talking. The old man asked, pointing at the people passing through the square, "What are these people doing?" "Working," the shepherd replied coldly, pretending to be absorbed in reading. But in truth, he was daydreaming about how he would shear the sheep in front of the merchant's daughter in 3 days, and she would see that he could do impressive things. He had imagined that scene dozens of times. He always saw the girl amazed when he explained that the wool should be shorn from back to front. He also tried to recall some good stories to tell her while he shored the wool. Most of them were stories he had read in books, but he would tell them as though he had lived them himself. And she would never know the difference as long as she didn't know how to read books. But the old man was persistent. He said he was hungry and thirsty and asked for a sip of wine. The boy handed him his bottle, hoping the man would then leave him alone, but the old man was determined to chatter. He asked the shepherd about the book he was reading. The boy thought of acting rudely, but his father had taught him to respect the elderly. So he offered the book to the old man for 2 reasons. First, he couldn't make out the title at all, and second, if the old man could not read, then the boy would have to change seats to avoid feeling embarrassed. The old man examined the book from every angle as if it were some sort of marvel, saying, "Oh, this is an important book, but extremely boring." The boy was truly astonished. So this old man knew how to read too, and he had read this very book. And if it really was as boring as he claimed, there was still time to exchange it for another. The old man continued, "It is a book that talks about the same things nearly all other books talk about, human beings' inability to choose their own destinies. And in the end, it tries to convince you of the greatest lie in the world." The boy asked, surprised, "And what is the greatest lie in the world?" "It is this, that at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what happens to us, and our lives become governed by fate. That is the greatest lie in the world." "As for me," the old man continued, "things did not go that way. I was destined to be a priest, but I decided to become a shepherd." "That is better because you love traveling," Santiago said to himself. "He has read my thoughts." Meanwhile, the old man kept flipping through the thick book, showing no intention of returning it. The shepherd noticed he wore very strange clothes. He looked like an Arab. That wasn't surprising in the region, for Tarifa was only a few hours from Africa. You only had to cross the strait by boat, and many Arabs came into the city to buy their needs. The shepherd had seen them pray several times a day in a special manner.
The boy asked, "Where are you from?" "From many places." "No one can be from many places," the boy said. "I am a shepherd, and I can be in many places, but I come from one place only. From a village near a very old castle. That is where I was born. So let us say I was born in Salem." The shepherd didn't know where Salem was, but he didn't want to ask questions that would reveal his ignorance. He watched the square for a moment. People went back and forth, all looking very busy. Finally, he asked, searching for any useful clue, "How are things in Salem?" "As they have always been," the old man replied. That was not really an answer, but at least it indicated Salem was not in Andalusia. Otherwise, the boy would have heard of it. "And what do you do in Salem?" For the first time, the old man let out a loud booming laugh and said, "What do I do in Salem? I am the king of Salem. What a question! People often say foolish things. Sometimes it is better to live with silent sheep and be content with searching for food and water, or with books that tell fantastical stories when one wishes to listen. But when speaking with people, they say things that make you unsure of how to continue the conversation. The old man said, "My name is Melchizedek. How many sheep do you have?" This old man wants to know too much about my life. Well then, we have a problem. I cannot help you as long as you think you have enough sheep. The boy began to feel irritated. He had not asked for any help. The old man had asked for wine, the old man wanted to chatter, and the old man had shown interest in his book. He said, "Give me back the book. I must go get my sheep and continue my path. Give me 1/10 of your flock, and I will teach you what you must do to reach the hidden treasure." Then the boy remembered his dream, and suddenly everything became clear. The gypsy woman had not taken a fee, but this old man, maybe her husband, was going to extort a much higher fee in exchange for false information. He must be a gypsy too. But before he could speak a word, the old man bent down, picked up a dry twig, and began writing on the sand that covered the square's ground. In the moment he bent over, something on his chest flashed with a brilliance that almost blinded the boy. But with astonishing speed for someone his age, the old man tightened his cloak around his body. The boy's dazzled eyes cleared, and he was able to read what the old man was writing. On the sand of the main square of that small city, he saw the names of his father and mother, and he read the story of his own life up to that moment. His childhood games, the cold nights at the seminary, and things he had never told anyone, like the time he stole his father's gun to go hunting alone, or his first sexual experience with himself. The old man said, "I am the king of Salem." The boy asked, "And why would a king speak to a shepherd?" He was upset and extremely confused. "There are several reasons, but let us say the most important one: you have succeeded in achieving your personal legend." The boy didn't know what a personal legend was. "It is what you have always wished to accomplish. Every one of us knows in the early years of our youth what his personal legend is. At that time of life, everything is clear and everything is possible, and we are not afraid to dream or pursue what we desire in life. But as time goes by, a mysterious force begins to prove that it is impossible to achieve our personal legend." What the king said did not mean much to the boy, but he wanted to know about those mysterious forces that would impress the merchant's daughter. They are forces that seem bad, but in reality, they teach you how to achieve your personal legend. They sharpen your spirit and will. For there is a great truth in this world. When you truly want something, this desire was born in the soul of the world. That is your mission on earth, even if the person simply wishes to travel or to marry a merchant's daughter. The soul of the world is nourished by people's happiness or by their misery, envy, and jealousy. The only obligation of man is to fulfill his personal legend. All things are one, and when you want something, the entire universe conspires to help you achieve it." They remained silent, watching the square and the people. The old man spoke first. "Why do you keep your sheep?" "Because I love traveling." He pointed with his hand to a cellar of roasted corn, popcorn, standing with his red handcart in a corner of the square, and said, "This man also always wanted to travel when he was a boy, but he chose instead to buy a small handcart to sell popcorn and save money over the years. When he becomes an old man, he will go spend a month in Africa. He never understood that there is always an opportunity for a person to do what he dreams. The boy thought aloud. He could have chosen to become a shepherd. I often thought of that. But popcorn sellers are more respectable than shepherds. Popcorn sellers have a roof over their heads, while shepherds sleep in the open, and people prefer to marry their daughters to popcorn sellers rather than to shepherds.
The boy felt a tightness in his heart as he remembered the merchant's daughter. Surely there was a popcorn seller in the town where she lived. And in the end, people's opinions of popcorn sellers and shepherds become more important to them than fulfilling their personal legends. The old man browsed the book and amused himself with reading a page. The boy waited a moment, then interrupted him in the same way the old man had interrupted him earlier. "Why are you telling me these things?" "Because you are trying to live your personal legend, and because you are about to abandon it." "And you always appear at such moments?" the boy asked. "Not always in this form," the king said. "But I never fail. Sometimes I appear as a good idea that solves a problem. Sometimes I make things easier at a critical moment, and so on. But most people notice nothing." He told the boy that last week he had been forced to appear to a precious stone miner in the form of a stone. The man had abandoned everything to search for emeralds. He worked for 5 full years along a river, breaking 9,999 stones trying to find one emerald. And at that moment, when only one stone was left, he thought of giving up. Because he was a man faithful to his personal legend, the king intervened. He turned himself into a stone that rolled to the digger's feet. In a storm of anger, frustrated by the 5 wasted years, the man picked up the stone and hurled it away violently. It struck another stone, which shattered and revealed the most beautiful emerald in the world. The king said, with a kind of sadness in his eyes, "People discover the reason for their existence very early, and perhaps that is exactly why they abandon it early as well. But that is the way of the world." The boy then remembered that the starting point of their conversation had been the hidden treasure. The king said, "What reveals treasures are the floods that wash things away, and the same waters hide them. If you want to know more about your treasure, you must give me 1/10 of your flock." "Wouldn't it be better to give you 1/10 of the treasure?" the boy asked. Disappointment appeared on the king's face. "If you promise what you do not yet possess, you lose the desire to obtain it." When the shepherd told him he had promised the gypsy woman 1/10 of the treasure, the king sighed and said, "Gypsies are cunning. In any case, it is important that you learn that everything in life has a price. That is what the warriors of light try to teach people." Then he handed the book back to the boy and said, "Tomorrow, at this same hour, bring me 1/10 of your flock, and I will teach you how to find the hidden treasure. Now go, good evening." He said this and disappeared around one of the corners of the square. The young man tried to read again, but he could not concentrate. He was agitated and tense because he realized the old man had told the truth. He went over to the street vendor and bought a bag of popcorn, all the while asking himself whether he should tell him what the old man had said or not. He thought that sometimes it is better to leave things as they are and so he said nothing. Had he spoken, the popcorn seller would have spent 3 days thinking about abandoning everything after he had already grown used to his little cart. He could spare him that painful confusion. He began wandering around the city and went down to the port. There was a small building with a window at the front, and people headed there to buy tickets. Egypt is in Africa. The ticket clerk asked him, "What do you want?" The boy replied as he stepped away, thinking that maybe tomorrow, if he sold one of his sheep, he could cross over to Africa on the other shore. That idea frightened him. The ticket clerk said to his colleague, "Here's another one of the dreamers," then added, as the young man walked away, "He doesn't have enough to pay for his trip." He thought of his sheep as he stood in front of the window, and fear warned him that he owed them something too. During those 2 years, he had learned everything about raising sheep, shearing wool, caring for pregnant ewes, protecting the flock from wolves, and determining the right price for buying and selling each one. He decided to return to his friend's sheepfold by the longest route. There was a castle in this city too, so he decided to climb the stone-paved slope leading to it and sit on the wall. From there, he could glimpse Africa. Someone had once explained to him that the Moors had come from that very path and had occupied all of Spain for a long time. He hated the Moors because they were the ones who had brought the gypsies. From up high, he could also see the largest part of the city, including the square where he had spoken with the old man. He said to himself, "Damn the hour I met that old man." He had simply gone to a woman who interpreted dreams, but neither she nor the old man cared at all that he was a shepherd. They were two lonely people who no longer believed in anything, and they did not understand that shepherds eventually become attached to their sheep. He knew each one of them deeply. He knew which one limped, which would give birth in 2 months, which was the laziest. He also knew how to shear them and slaughter them, and if he decided to leave, they would suffer. The wind began to blow, and he knew this wind. They called it the Levante, because it was the wind that had carried the invaders. But he had never imagined, before he learned about Tarifa, that Africa was so close, and that was a dangerous thing for the Moors. The Levante grew stronger, and he thought, "Here I am, torn between my sheep and the treasure." He had to choose between something he was familiar with and something he longed to possess. There was also the merchant's daughter, but she was not as important as the sheep because she did not depend on him. He was certain that if he didn't see the girl in 2 days, she would not even notice. All days looked the same to her, and when all days become identical, it means that people stop noticing the good things that pass through their lives just as the sun crosses the sky. He said to himself, "I left my father and mother and the castle in the city where I was born. I've grown used to that, and they've grown used to me, and the sheep were fine too during my absence." He watched the square from above. The street vendor continued selling popcorn. A young man and woman sat on the bench where he had spoken to the old man. They exchanged a long kiss. He whispered to himself, "The popcorn seller." But he didn't finish the sentence because the Levante wind began blowing fiercely, and he felt it lash his face. That wind had surely brought the Moors, but it also carried the smell of the desert and veiled women. It brought the sweat of men and their dreams, those who once set out searching for the unknown, for gold, for adventure, for the pyramids. The young man envied the wind for its freedom, and he realized he could become like it. Nothing held him back except himself, the sheep, the merchant's daughter, the fields of Andalusia.
These were just obstacles along the path of his personal legend. The next day, the shepherd went to meet the old man, bringing 6 sheep with him. He said, "I am surprised. My friend bought the flock immediately. He told me he had always dreamed of being a shepherd, so this must be a good omen." The old man said, "It will always be this way. We call this the beginner's luck principle. When you play cards for the first time, you will surely win. Why? Because life wants you to live your personal legend." Then the old man began examining the 6 sheep and noticed one of them limped. The boy explained that this didn't matter because it was the smartest sheep in the flock and produced plenty of wool. Then he asked, "Where is the treasure?" "The treasure is in Egypt, near the pyramids." The young man was stunned. The gypsy woman had said the same thing, though she had not asked for payment. To reach the treasure, you must pay attention to the signs. God has written the path we must all follow. You only need to read what was written for you. Before the boy could respond, a butterfly flew between him and the old man. He remembered how his grandfather used to tell him, when he was a child, that butterflies were signs of good luck. Just like crickets, nighttime cicadas, green grasshoppers, little gray lizards, and 4-leaf clovers. The old man, who could read his thoughts, continued, "That is exactly right. Just as your grandfather taught you, the signs are real." Then he opened the cloak wrapped around him, and the boy was stunned by what he saw, recalling the flash of light from the day before. The old man was wearing a thick gold breastplate encrusted with precious stones, so he really was a king, disguised that way to avoid thieves. The old man removed a white stone and a black stone from the center of his breastplate and handed them to the boy. "Take these stones. Their names are Urim and Thummim. The black means yes, the white means no. When you cannot read the signs, they will help you, but always ask them clear questions. And in general, try to make your own decisions." He continued, "The treasure is near the pyramids, and you already know that, but you paid 6 sheep because I helped you make the decision." The boy put the stones into his pouch and decided that from this moment on, he would make his own decisions. Do not forget that everything is one thing. Do not forget the language of signs. Do not forget, above all, to follow your personal legend to its end. But before you go, I want to tell you a short story. He told him a tale. A merchant once sent his son to learn the secret of happiness from the wisest man on earth. The boy walked 40 days through the desert until he reached a beautiful castle atop a mountain where the sage lived. But instead of finding a saint, he found himself in a place full of noise and activity. Traders came and went. People were talking in one of the halls, and a band played soft music. The wise man spoke with this person and that one, and the boy had to wait 2 hours until it was his turn. The sage listened attentively as the boy explained the reason for his visit, but said he did not have time to explain the secret of happiness at that moment. Instead, he told him to tour the castle and return in 2 hours. Then the sage added, handing the boy a small spoon with 2 drops of oil in it. "But I want to ask you a favor. Carry this spoon with you during your tour and be careful not to spill the oil." The boy climbed the castle staircases and descended them, keeping his eyes fixed on the spoon the entire time. After 2 hours, he returned to the wise man. "Did you see the Persian carpets in the dining hall, the garden that took the master gardener 10 years to create, the beautiful volumes in my library?"
The boy was embarrassed and had to admit that he had seen none of it. All he had focused on was not spilling the oil. The wise man said, "Then go back and learn about the marvels of my world. One cannot trust a person who does not know the house he lives in." The boy regained his calm, took the spoon again, and toured the castle once more, this time paying attention to the artistic wonders on the walls, the decorative beauty descending from the ceilings, the garden, the surrounding mountains, the delicate flowers, and the harmony with which everything had been arranged. When he returned, he described everything in detail. The sage asked, "And where are the 2 drops of oil I gave you?" The boy looked at the spoon and saw they had spilled. The wise man said, "And there lies the advice I can give you. The secret to happiness is to see all the marvels of the world without ever spilling the 2 drops of oil in the spoon." The shepherd remained silent. He had understood the king's story. A shepherd may love traveling, but he never forgets his sheep. The old man watched the boy and with his open palms made a strange gesture over his head, then gathered his cloak and left. The old castle that the Moors had built long ago overlooked the small city of Tarifa. Anyone who sat on its wall could see the dunes, the popcorn cellar, and a part of Africa.
That night, Melchizedek, king of Salem, sat on the castle wall. The Levante wind blew against his face. The sheep nearby moved restlessly, disturbed by their new shepherd and all these changes. All they wanted was food and drink. Melchizedek watched the small boat drifting away from the port. He knew the young shepherd would never see him again, just as he himself had never seen Abraham again after making him pay the tithe. But that was his work. The gods should not have desires because gods do not have personal legends. Yet, in the depths of his heart, he wished the boy success. Melchizedek thought, "How sad, he will soon forget my name. I should have made him repeat it many times so that when he speaks of me, he can say, 'I met Melchizedek, king of Salem.'" He lifted guilty eyes toward the sky for having such thoughts and said, "Yes, I know it is vanity, and vanity of vanities, as you said, Lord, but an old king has the right to be proud sometimes." What a strange country Africa is, the boy thought as he sat in a cafe similar to the others he had seen while walking through the narrow alleys. Men smoked giant pipes, passing them from mouth to mouth. In just a few hours, he had seen men walking hand in hand, veiled women, and old men climbing tall towers and beginning the call, while others knelt and touched their foreheads to the ground. These people looked nothing like the ones he knew. Their looks frightened him, and in the rush of his great departure, he had forgotten a detail. One very small detail that could actually keep him from his treasure for a long time. Everyone in this country spoke Arabic. The cafe owner approached him and pointed with his finger to a drink he saw him serving at another table. It turned out to be tea, bitter tea. He preferred wine, but this was no time to think of such things. He had to think only of his treasure and how he would get it. After selling his flock, he had a substantial amount of money in his pocket. He knew money was a magical thing. A person with money is never completely alone. Soon, perhaps in a few days, he would be at the foot of the pyramids. No king wearing a golden breastplate would invent lies just to get 6 sheep. The old king had spoken to him about the signs, and he spent the entire crossing of the strait thinking about them. Yes, he knew what the old man meant. During his years in the Andalusian countryside, he had learned to read the signs on the land and in the sky. He learned that a certain pattern revealed a nearby snake, that a certain shrub indicated water several kilometers away. The sheep had taught him these things. He thought, if God guides the sheep in this way, he will guide man too. He felt reassured, and the taste of the tea seemed less bitter. Then he heard someone ask him in Spanish, "Who are you?"
Relief washed over him. He had been thinking about signs, and here someone appeared. "How do you know Spanish?" he asked. The newcomer was a young man wearing strange clothes, though his skin color showed he was the local. He was about the shepherd's height and age. "Everyone here speaks Spanish. We're only a few hours from Spain. Sit, order something, my treat. And order me wine. I hate this tea." "There's no wine here. Their religion forbids it." The shepherd said he needed to go to the pyramids. He was about to mention the treasure, but decided to keep silent. This Arab could demand part of it in exchange for guiding him. He remembered what the old king had said. "I need you to take me there. I can pay you. Do you know how to get there?" At that moment, he noticed the cafe owner standing close, listening attentively. It embarrassed him, but he had found a guide and would not waste the chance. The newcomer said, "You must cross the entire desert, and for that you need money. I want to know if you have enough." The young man found the question intrusive, but he trusted the old king who said, "When you truly want something, all the universe conspires to help you." He pulled out his money and showed it to his new friend. The cafe owner approached and looked too. The two exchanged a few words in Arabic. The cafe owner was angry. The newcomer said, "Let's go. He doesn't want us here." The boy felt relieved. He stood to pay, but the cafe owner grabbed his arm, shouting endlessly. The boy was strong, but he was in a foreign land. His companion pushed the cafe owner aside and let him out. "He wanted your money. Tangier isn't like the rest of Africa. This is a port, and ports are dens for thieves." So he could trust his new friend who had defended him. He took out the money and began counting it. The other man took the money and said, "We can be at the pyramids tomorrow. I just need to buy 2 camels." They walked together through Tangier's narrow alleys. Every corner was crowded with goods for sale. At last, they reached the big square where the market was held. Thousands of people argued, sold and bought vegetables and daggers, carpets and hookahs of all kinds. The young man never took his eyes off his guide. He had not forgotten that all his wealth was now in that man's hands. He thought of asking him to return it, but felt it would be rude. He knew nothing of this foreign land's customs. "I'll just watch him," he thought, and he was physically stronger than the other. Suddenly, amid the enormous crowds, he saw the most beautiful sword he had ever seen, silver with a black jewel-studded handle. He promised himself he would buy it once he sold the treasure in Egypt. He told his companion, "Ask the merchant for its price." Then he realized he had taken his eyes off him for 2 seconds while admiring the sword. His heart tightened, as if his chest had shrunk. He feared looking around, knowing what waited for him. He stared another moment at the beautiful sword, then gathered his courage and turned. People filled the square. They came and went, shouted, bought carpets and nuts, green herbs and copper trays. There were men walking hand in hand, veiled women, and the pungent smells of spices. But nowhere at all was there even a trace of his companion. He wanted to believe he had simply lost him by accident. He stayed in the same place, hoping he would return. After a while, someone climbed one of the towers and began chanting the call to prayer. Everyone around knelt and touched their foreheads to the ground.